5 minutes past 11 o'clock, and this is NBS Television, the command center, and my name is Dalton Kawesa. There's a lot of things that have been happening in this country regarding the security and the beating of former MPs. We're trying to connect to media center to find out what Eli Tumwine, the Minister of Security, has to say of the political events that have taken place in the past 2 weeks.
About the security situation, and it was covering the genesis of this present situation. And I want to say, first of all, to say that Uganda has been at peace for a long time after our difficult past. We had good LC elections in the whole country, which were very peaceful everywhere, in every village. We had the Namugongo celebrations, where people walked day and night from all the districts, and the celebration was held by more than 1 million people and went back in peace. We've had a World Cup, we've had recently Eid al-Fitr celebrations, all in peace, and the people of Uganda generally are peaceful and busy working. But following the by-elections which took place in a number of areas which were very peaceful, there were the ones that were a bit not as peaceful as the others, and the ones that one can point out specifically were the by-elections in Rukunjiri, in Jinja, and in Bujiri. But the climax of this violence was seen in the Arua elections, which followed the death of the late Honorable retired Colonel Abiriga, and whose burial was also characterized by violence in Arua. After that, the by-elections were arranged and the Electoral Commission guided the parties that were involved and gave out different areas for their rallies. But some actors in the opposition opted to hold illegal processions involving imported rowdy people who engaged in acts of hooliganism that disrupted campaigns of other competing candidates. These same rowdy crowds threatened the Wananchi by words and actions, including physical assaults, destruction of property, and rape because of their different political affiliations. Now, the security forces and the police continuing to investigate these cases. Actually, police is following up all these cases in all these areas where it took place. Investigations are going on, and some people were arrested. And the question of importing illegal voters from other areas is criminal because it overthrows the power of the people in the given area to choose their leaders. And that's characterized those areas where there was violence. Now, the Arua rally of the 13th August in Arua municipality were the ones that actually caused much more trouble. Candidates had distinct rally venues on that day. However, Honorable Kasiano Wadri, Ezati, and his supporters, after being charged up by their MPs who had come to give him support, were visibly disruptive of other candidates' rallies and also engaged in violence. When their procession encountered the presidential motorcade en route to the airstrip to drop the president, they pelted the motorcade with offensive objects and damaging the rear screen of one of those presidential vehicles. The procession, you know, that was the climax of the violence. That was taking the violence, although the violence had been going on in all these areas. This now reached a point where it really brought out the ugliest head of attacking the motorcade of the president. The procession also had earlier in the day a caterpillar, registration number UAP 064R, which was also wrapped in red ribbons, similar to the attire of the attackers and opposition political activists at Transport Junction Road. You know, there is this, the red movement, which we saw coming. It came slowly. You saw it in Parliament. We saw, now, wherever this red thing was going, including making the vehicles or a caterpillar also wearing a red ribbon, it means it was there for a purpose. It remains impounded at Arua Central Police Station. Now, all those matters are being investigated, and as we have said before, sadly on that day, one Yasin Kauma was killed who was in a vehicle UAG 416K, and all those matters are being investigated and are subject to the courts of law. And of course, any death is regrettable. I will quickly go through on what followed. You all know this now. By now, the 33 people suspected have been brought to the courts of law. First, as you remember, Honorable Robert Chaguranyi, Bobi Wine, was brought first to the General Court Martial, but on the request of the DPP, was later transferred to the civil court. And these incidents were followed by other riots like happened on the 18th August 2018 in Mityana and other areas, and which resulted in the destruction of property in Mityana, blocking the highway and assailing innocent people by rioters, and a number of people were injured with stones. And unfortunately, when the police intervened and calmed down the situation, after that, 2 policemen shot and injured a number of people. So far, 2 of those who were injured in that irresponsible shooting by those 2 police have died, and the police commenced investigations, and the report will be out soon in relation to that incident. Now, on Monday, August 19th, 2018, some parts of Kampala experienced riots protesting the arrest of those members of parliament, and the security forces intervened, and these riots were contained. Over 100 suspects were arrested, and investigations are ongoing. Regrettably, in the process, some security personnel were involved in those scuffles, and the CDF has instituted a board of inquiry to investigate those matters that appeared in the public, and the Inspector General of Police has opened a general inquiry file to fully investigate complaints of abuse that could have occurred during the operation to contain these riots and also the violence in Arua. This will form subsequent actions in relation to these investigations. And that is the normal procedure. In the UPDF, whenever we carry out operations, we always analyze, and if there are question marks in the operations that are of concern, we institute a board of inquiry, and the results of the board inquiry lead to trial or to the decisions that follow, and that one is going on. Now, to update you to the recent events, since I had made this part of this statement in Parliament, but to bring it forward now to the present on what has been going on, is the latest is that on the 23rd August 2018, Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi reappeared before the General Court Martial in Gulu, as I have already said, and the proceedings were terminated upon instructions from the DPP. On the same day, he was rearrested by police and charged before the Gulu Magistrates Court for treason alongside other 32 suspects. He was thereafter remanded to Uganda government prison in Gulu. On the 27th of August 2018, all the suspects, including the MPs that had been arraigned in court on charges of treason, were granted bail by the High Court judge sitting in Gulu. Honorable Kyagulanyi was admitted at Rubaga Hospital, and so was Honorable Zake, who had escaped from lawful custody in Arua. The two MPs wanted to undergo medical treatment abroad, but they were required to be examined by government medical experts, not only as per procedure of the medical board, but also to support the ongoing police investigations into alleged torture as reported to the DPP by the Uganda Law Society. At first, the two of them, while Honorable Kyagulanyi cooperated, was examined and finally flew out of the country on Friday, 31st August 2018. Honorable Zake contested the examination, and it took a long, protracted dialogue with his representatives, and he consented for the medical examination after a number of days, I think 3 days, and was subsequently cleared to travel after being granted police bond on charges of treason. All these developments are reaffirmation, first, of the independence of the judiciary as it dispenses justice in the country, and a systematic commitment of government to uphold the rule of law. And I want therefore to inform the Honorable, or all of you, the people of Uganda, and more so the journalists, that the due process of the law will be followed to the letter. And that has been our commitment all along. And I want to take this opportunity to reassure all of you and the country that our security forces will remain firm. I repeat, we remain firm and resolute, as has always been, in maintaining law and order throughout the country. No one is above the law, and lawlessness shall not be tolerated at all. In this respect, we all have a collective duty to preserve our dignity as a country with the treasured way of life of a peaceful, stable, democratic and prosperous Uganda. And here I call upon the media really to take the lead in working for that situation, for ensuring peace, for ensuring stability, and for the prosperity of the people of Uganda. The security situation is now very calm, and all people should continue to carry out their businesses normally. And I really want to take this opportunity to thank the young people, the women, the old men, who have been very vigilant, who have been very active, who have been giving us information, who have been cooperating with the security forces, who have cooperated with the government and the other people everywhere to ensure peace and security, in spite of the occasional tensions or violence that tend to come up. Really, many people have been very helpful, and I want to thank them and use this opportunity that we hope that the media will continue to do the same. For God and my country, I want to thank all of you and wish you a wonderful Uganda to live in together, young and old, tall and short, black and brown, whoever you are, to ensure that fat and thin, that Uganda is for us all, and let us work together. The point is, let us work together for the peace of our country. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable General. For purposes of making some clarifications, which some of you have been raising, particularly about these examinations,
Yes.
Allow me to request Honorable Rotha Cheng to come and explain or give light, shed light on a few of those that the people have been contesting about examination, about whether you should allow people to go or not. Please come. Thank you. You will. We will take questions after her.
Okay. Good morning to you all. I'm here to make clarifications on how the medical board operates and what happened to... I'm here to make clarifications on how the medical board operates and what happened to the honorable members of parliament regarding their going abroad for medical treatment. First of all, allow me to state here very clearly that the medical board did not delay anyone, as has been alleged in the media and openly in the media. As you have heard from the Minister for Security, the medical board to date has not received any request either from Honorable Zake or from Honorable Chagulani requesting for referral abroad. The only request that was received by myself was an update that came from Rubaga Hospital on the 28th of August 2018, and this is the update. It came from Dr. Andrew Sech-Toleko, and he was saying, following their contact with the Uganda Medical Board on recommendation of the Clerk to Parliament, he was giving me an update on Honorable Zake. This was brought to me by the woman MP of Masaka, Honorable Kabanda. When I discussed this with her in my office, she said they wanted a medical referral abroad. And so I did what was right. I referred this to the board. On the 29th, I wrote officially to the board and requested the board to examine Honorable Zake. In his letter to me, Dr. Andrew Sech-Toleko also referred to a communication from the Director CIID requesting for Honorable Zake to be transferred to Mulago. And I did communicate that to the board. On the 30th, which was a Thursday, the director of Mulago, who also received a letter from the CIID requesting for Honorable Zake to be examined, constituted a team and waited in Mulago for Honorable Zake, who did not turn up. We reported this back to the CIID, and the CIID mobilized her teams to go and transfer Honorable Zake from Ruvaga to Mulago. Honorable Zake declined transfer. That same evening, Honorable Zake was brought in by the police to Chirudu Hospital about 11 o'clock at night. The same night, Thursday night, Honorable Chagulani was also brought to Chirudu Hospital. The following day, on the 31st, the medical board moved to do the needful, and Honorable Chagulani willingly accepted to be examined through his lawyers, specifically Counsel Pio Nicholas, and he was duly examined. After his examination, he was released by the police to go wherever he wanted to go. Honorable Zake declined to be examined. Members of the medical board waited outside Honorable Zake's door for 4 hours on Friday, from 1:30 up to 4:30. He declined to be examined. Thereafter, they left. Honorable Zake only accepted to be examined on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock after he had interfaced with his lawyers. It was difficult to reconstitute a board on Saturday afternoon and over the weekend to examine Honorable Zake, well aware that many of the diagnostic facilities would also not be operational to the extent that we wanted. We did explain this to the lawyers of Honorable Zake, as well to Honorable Zake himself. On Monday morning at 10 o'clock, the constituted medical specialists went and examined Honorable Zake and concluded his examination with investigations, and thereafter we handed him back to the police. And I believe he was released and he traveled wherever he wanted to go. So it is not true that the medical board delayed them, and it is not true that the medical board received any official request for referral abroad. But also allow me to state very clearly that there is a guideline for referral of patients abroad that we do follow. And these guidelines cover for those who draw funds from government and for those who want to go out on their own, using their own private money. Now, for those who draw funds from government, the procedure needs to be followed. And our honorable members are part of this team that draw funds from government. The procedure is that the client shall be seen by a duly registered, licensed, and practicing senior government specialist, and preferably a consultant or a senior consultant. The client shall be assessed in a public health facility, and in this case, a specialized national or regional referral hospital. The attending specialist shall assess the client comprehensively, including investigations, and determine the need for referral based on both clinical and investigative medical evidence. The referring clinician, upon being convinced, will then fill in the referral forms, and the referral forms are available in all these facilities, and write to the secretary or chairperson of the board to bring to his her attention the need for referral, indicating the degree of urgency. Because the guidelines also spells out how to handle what is urgent and what is not so urgent. The board, upon receipt of this request, will reconstitute themselves and summon the referring clinician to defend his her case with evidence and justification, highlighting clearly why the patient cannot be treated in country and why such services do not exist. The referring specialist will have made reference to the inventory of specialist services. The board shall take their decision independently without any influence from whatsoever source. But also to take note that for you to be referred abroad, the referring specialist has to be a specialist in the area for which the patient is being referred. Honorable Zake was seen in Rubaga Hospital. He was allegedly tortured. But the people who saw him are not specialists in his area, which he was complaining. Honorable Zake was seen by a physician, he was seen by a family physician, he was seen by an intern doctor, and he was seen by a general surgeon. Now, for us to refer somebody abroad, we also need to save the face of Uganda abroad. You cannot just refer anybody anyhow. The receiving facility that side will wonder whether we have specialists in Uganda who refer anyhow. So, we need also to keep our flag held high, as Ugandan doctors are known as very good doctors abroad. And that is why the guidelines clearly spell out that you must be seen by a consultant or a senior consultant, not by people who are not specialists in your area of referral. Secondly, for those who are referred out and are privately sponsored, the same procedure follows. You must be seen by a duly registered, licensed, and practicing senior specialist, preferably a consultant, a senior consultant, or the equivalent. And you will be assessed in either a private not-for-profit, or a public health facility, which shall be at the level of a referral facility or higher. When Honorable Zake declined to be shifted to Mulago, I had dialogue with the Honorable MP who was following up his case, and I said, you have another option. You can decide to go out on your own and privately sponsor his treatment. That option is there. But again, you must be cleared by the police, because he had a running police case. They opted for that option, but apparently they had not sought out clearance from the police. And I believe that is why he was brought back to Chirodo. Upon return from abroad, the medical board also desires accountability. So for anybody, whether going privately or through public resources, when you get back, for those who have used government resources, they must account to the accounting officers of the institutions that have given them money, but also to the board. And the board requires both financial accountability and a comprehensive medical report detailing what was done at the receiving facility, the final diagnosis, and follow-up issues. So these are the procedures that we require to be followed. So upon concluding our report, the medical board is sitting today to finalize the report, and when they are done, we shall hand over the report back to the police, because it is the police that requested for the examination. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ruth. Now, Our Tuesday pressers are usually addressed by the Minister of Information, who speaks for government, and today he's represented by Honorable Christopher Yomonsi, and allow me to invite Honorable Christopher Yomonsi to come and also give a communication that Honorable Frank Tumwebaze would have given if he had been here. Honorable.
So thank you very much. I just want to thank my colleagues, the Minister for Security and the Minister for Health, for the clarification they have made, and also to thank the brothers and sisters from the media for turning up to listen to the government communication. And to say that we shall continue to organize these media briefings so that you report from a point of knowledge. Because sometimes if there is an information gap, you report things which are not accurate and which do not reflect maybe the truth. And I'm happy that the Minister of Health has been here to clarify issues of referral. Because the other day I was on television and I made reference to the guidelines by the Minister of Health. And some of the members of Parliament called a press conference to condemn me for saying that even when you want to privately fund your referral, there are procedures. And I think the Minister of Health has clarified that it's important to save the image of the profession, because if you have flu and then you refer you outside, then the receiving doctor will just wonder whether Uganda cannot manage flu. So it becomes important. So it's not only the issue of funding from government, but also when you are outside the country, there are other medical legal issues which can come up where you may need support of the embassy and so forth. And therefore, if you have gone through the established procedures, it becomes helpful. At times we advise people to do full examination. Supposing you go into a quack facility outside and they cause damage to you, they remove your organ and so on and so forth, and then you come with complaints. So it becomes important to have a record, to have medical records, and that needs to be understood. But particularly in this case also, as you heard the Minister for Security explaining, the Uganda Law Society had made a formal complaint, the DPP, that these two members of Parliament were tortured. And this matter was sent to police. Because the question has been, why were these members of Parliament stopped at the airport? It was important that as the police investigates that matter of torture, that the two members of Parliament be examined by the government doctors so that there is a record. And we thought we should be able to continue to interface with you so that you relay this information to the public and to allay the anxiety which has been building up in the wider public over this matter. I thank you very much. We shall be able to respond to the other issues which will come from the questions or any comments for clarification. But we thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Honorable Chris. So now it's time for questions, and as is our custom, we shall be taking sets. But when you are asking your question, it will be useful to refer to the specific person, since there are three of them, who you think will answer it best. So we shall start with you, General Tumwine, to respond to the questions arising out of your communication. So we take first four, okay? And as usual, you mention your name and your media house. So, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I'm Edward. I work with Dream TV and Impact Radio. I would like to inquire from you, in the recent political unrest that you've been talking about, a number of people have been killed, to mention but a few, Yasin Kauma and the one from Indiana. We'd love to know, have you so far arrested anyone who killed any of those And are they yet to be tried in any courts of law, as it is in our laws? Thank you.
Number two. No, number.
I am called Aloysius Biamkama. I work with Mama FM. General, you have talked of peace. You have said the media should work with the government, of which we are doing, to ensure peace in a country. But how are we going to do this as journalists when we are trying to cover those events? Our things are taken, we are beaten. For your information, by the way, outside we fear to bring our recorders, our cameras, because they may be taken. So how are we going to do this to ensure that peace you are talking about? And then this of torture, we don't know how it came. Are the people in security organs trained to torture people or to protect their lives and human rights? Thank you.
Number three.
Name is Kasim Kaira from Azam TV. Question number one is to General Tumwine. I would like to get from you the definition of torture, because from all the evidence that we see, especially from the two MPs who have been at the center of this, we see signs of severe pain that has been inflicted, and yet the government has continued to say there was no torture involved. In your case, how would you define torture? The second question is to Honorable Minister Bobi Wine. You said in terms of before the medical board can refer anyone abroad, it's about face or saving the image of the country. Do you feel ashamed then that we were unable to treat our own in these particular circumstances because the two MPs have flown out? Is it a failure on our part, in our health system to provide?
Number four.
Damali is my name.
Sorry?
Damali.
Damali, yes.
Okay, mine goes to the gentleman about the caterpillar you found in Marua. Have you been able to find out the owners of that caterpillar? And if not, why? Because the URS has the registry, the conflict registry for the country. And number two, what action has the government taken on those people who torture the MPs? We're just talking about the torture, but we're not sharing the government explaining who tortured them and have they been.
Okay. Don't know to answer those questions. That's said first.
Yes. Thank you very much. I think it's very important that we, because it is through sharing and learning from one another that we can have a common ground on which we work. Edward's question was, has anybody been arrested for the killing, for the death of these people? In the case of Kauma, in Arua, that matter is still being investigated. I don't have any information on who is suspected, the actual person. But in the case of Mitiana, the two policemen who actually fired at the minibus that was passing with people even after the riots had been calmed down, those seemed to have even realized their mistake, and they went and threw away their guns and ran. The files were opened against them. The police has been looking for them, and we are waiting for a police report on whether they have got them or not. Those are the two cases which I know of, but they are being investigated, and we shall get the results. We have not yet got any result out of that. For Mama FM, she's really raising the issue of how is the media going to cooperate and work with us in ensuring peace and security in the country if some